Hello, my name is Kathy Robert, and this is the YouTube channel Awakening Waves. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about grief and functional freeze. Tomorrow, the 27th of March, will be 10 years after my granddaughter passed away. Unexpectedly, she wasn't sick. She was a 3.5-year-old little girl who somehow got out of the house she was visiting, and she ran into the woods, and beyond the woods was a pond, and she somehow got into the water and drowned. And that day was a hard day for me because my eldest child had moved out of the house a month before, and she had taken my granddaughter and her little sister, my other granddaughter, who was only 3.5 months old. And the first part I want to tell you, though, is that grief was really tough. I don't even remember a lot of that day, in the afternoon, in the night, and barely through the week until her funeral. I wrote her a eulogy, and I knocking myself, patting myself on the back. It was a pretty good eulogy. She was this little monkey that would get up in the morning and you could hear her feet hit the floor, and she ran. She ran everywhere she could go, anywhere. Her life was one big adventure, and I'd like to think that at 13 years old, she would just be learning about all that she could do, and she would be chomping at the bit to do all that she wanted to do, driving her mother crazy and the rest of us. And someday she'd be the one who would be exploring the deepest oceans or the tallest of mountains and trees and swinging around like a monkey. And thankfully, we wouldn't know about these things until she was through with that little adventure. Her name was Elizabeth Marie Dater. She was a beautiful little girl, my first grandchild, and she was born in October, the same month of my birthday. And she was just a beautiful girl. And it was hard. I don't think I really truly embraced the grief that I had for her because I was very busy trying to make sure everyone else was able to get through it. My daughter in particular had a really rough time, as any mother would. She was in very deep grief. She was in the same hospital, in the ER that they brought Elizabeth in, because she had migraines, and she was experiencing vertigo, and she'd fallen in the shower that morning, so she went to the ER, and that's where they brought Elizabeth. And it was a tough time for all of us. But what the reason behind I want to say all this is not to have you feel sorry for me or my family, my daughter, and Elizabeth's father and his family, or CJ, who's my second granddaughter, who's 10 years old now. In 2018, Jenny, my daughter, had gotten full custody of CJ at that point. There was a lot of things that went on in between all that. And CJ came to live with us here, and that October, we got custody of her on October 26th, which was Elizabeth's birthday. So we went and picked her up, and that first weekend, or the weekend after, I don't remember, there was a zoo that was doing a Halloween walk, said, what would be really great is if we did this with Elizabeth in mind. And that was the first time we did that. Instead of mourning her death on her birthday, let's celebrate her life. Even though it was only 3.5 years long, what an amazing life she had. And then the following March, on her, at that point, that would have been 2 years that she had been gone. Or no, 3, sorry. We went to a tea party down in Connecticut. There's a place in the Mystic, I forget what it's called, Alice in the Commons or something like that. It's a tea house down there. Very nice. I recommend it. We had a wonderful tea party. All these beautiful little hats and Alice's legs hanging in between the space of the ceiling and in the tea room. And then we went to the Mystic Aquarium. And we tried to do more with her in mind, but like when it's her birthday, we get a cake and we sing happy birthday to her, and we get these things called flying prayer papers. They're like little pieces of tissue, and you write on them with a pencil, and you crumple them up, and then you roll them around your finger, and you stand them up on this piece of little thin cardboard. And then you light the top of it, and when it does is it burns all the way down and then shoots to the ceiling. And whatever you wrote on that piece of paper. And I think that's a lot better than balloons. Balloons are not very great for the nature, especially birds and fish and turtles and stuff like that. They think it's food, and it's not very good. Or, getting doves or butterflies or anything like that. It's not very, I don't know, it just doesn't go with us. So we do that. We do a cake and prayer papers. As much as I'd like to do something big every year, we just are unable to financially provide that. But we do something. So tomorrow my daughter is taking her daughter to a game, and there's going to be fireworks at the end of a game. It's a local baseball group, I think. You'll have to excuse me. It's like late on Thursday evening on March 26th, and because we were out of internet. I don't know why, but our internet went down, so I wasn't able to record on my phone or, download it or upload it, whichever the case may be. So I'm sorry if I'm fumbling around in here. You're getting me. 100% authentic. It's not script in any way. I just wanted to offer that for you, because grief is such a very deep, deep ditch. I liken it to a well, and you can be at the bottom of that well, and the light at the top of the well is a pinprick, and you have no idea how you're going to get out of there, or if you even want to. There were many days that I wanted to run away because I didn't know how to handle the grief. One of the things I learned, though, is that we don't go away. Our body might die, but our spirit is still very much the energy around us. That night that we found out, and my husband and I came home, and everybody had gone to bed, I was laying facing his back. We were like facing the wall, and he was sound asleep, and I didn't want to wake him, so I was sobbing very quietly as I could. And all of a sudden I felt a warm hug from behind, and I knew it was my Elizabeth. She was hugging me. And then a few days later, or actually the next day, we went up to my daughter's apartment, and we went with her to the funeral home to make the arrangements. And when we got back to the apartment, we were there for a couple of hours, and we kept hearing this bird. And I hadn't really thought much about it other than it was very loud. They were on a first floor. They had one of those apartment buildings where it was the first floor, second and third, and there was like a subterranean type of, I don't know what you call those kinds of apartments, but they were above that. So their patio was like right even with the ground. So it was a slab of concrete, and there was these beautiful birch trees. And, at this point, there had been snow a week or so ago before that. And this was Easter Sunday, March 27th, 2016. So at this point, it was March 28th. And it was a beautiful day. And it was warm. And, there's little patches of snow around. And I kept hearing that bird. I'm like, boy, that bird is so loud. And I looked outside, and on that beautiful white birch tree was this gorgeous bright red cardinal. And from that moment on, when I discovered that song was a cardinal, we have had a family of cardinals living around our house. They come and go like when they're supposed to. They go for a little ways in the winter, and then they come back, and they're here. And they keep letting us know that they're here, both the male and the female. And that to us is beautiful. And a couple days later, I was writing her eulogy. I wrote it very quickly, but I was looking up a poem that I wanted to recite. And as I was looking it up, out of the corner of my eye, I'm staring straight ahead, and my feet straight ahead because I was in a recliner, and my laptop is on my lap. And I could see this, like on a summer's day, when you look down the hot, hot road, you get that waviness right there by my feet, about the height that Elizabeth would be. And I just knew it was her. And there was one time that really, and I wish I could show you the picture, because we took a picture of it. Jenny and I were going up to see these people, and it was in regard to the custody of CJ, and things didn't appear to be very hopeful for Jen, and we were very discouraged by our meeting. And we're coming down, we live in Massachusetts, so we're coming down 495 South, we're going towards Worcester, and we're still up in the area of Lawrence, in that area, and so there's a lot of New Hampshire plates around too. I shouldn't have said that, but who knows? I mean, it's been 10 years, so that license plate might not even be effective anymore, and if it is, I apologize to the owner of that plate. But I was in the extreme left lane, and we were going along, and both my daughter and I were very much into our own thoughts and very discouraged, and we're just kind of not really saying much. And we're cruising along. I'm usually the person who goes 5 miles over the speed limit. I'm not I'm a fast driver. But we're coming to, you're passing that middle lane, you're passing the cars on the middle lane, and both of us at the same time saw this minivan with the number 327 and then 1026. So her death date, March 27th, and then her birth date, October 26th. And both of us at the same time, it's like, Mom, look at this. Jenny, look at that. And it really helped. I mean, it didn't produce any miracles or anything like that, but we've had all these wonderful signs. And my point of telling you all this is that while you are still grieving very much, um, it helps if you can think that they're by you, that they're with you. You may not be able to feel them because you feel so sad missing their touch and their voice and the warmth of their smiles. Or in a 3.5-year-old's case, they're screaming when they're very unhappy. The pitter patter of their run. It's very hard, and I know this. And one of the things that you need to know is that you are not alone, ever. The people you love who have passed on are still with you. If you can pause the pain enough and focus on your heart, just put your hand on your heart and you close your eyes and you think about their love. How much they loved you and how much you enjoyed that joyfulness of accepting that love and having that love for them in turn. And just feel that love and just feel that love. And you might be able to feel them. You might be able to hear them. Everybody has that capability. I truly believe that. You just have to believe, I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form. And I've been going through some stuff lately. And I think part of the reason where I had this breakdown, I went into a complete freeze after I lost another person. And I didn't really lose him, but I lost my future with him in a very real sense. And it wasn't just that, it was a combination of my grief for him, but my grief for our future together, all the things that we couldn't say anymore. It was a long distance relationship, so we were on the phone, FaceTiming. And then everything before it that I didn't feel kind of just came up like an eruption of a volcano, or at that time it was like a nuclear wasteland. I went into a full freeze. For a couple of days there, I didn't function beyond bodily functions. I stayed in my bed a lot. And then life came back in, and I had no choice but to take my son to his job. That's how he worked at the time. Dishes needed to be done. Dinner, lunch, whatever needed to be made. But it's been 3.5 years since then, and this is the functional freeze. And I'm hoping that by seeing this and that listening to this, that you learn how to absorb those feelings and to let them go. Holding on to them and stamping them down, down, down. They have no other place to go. And they can show up as disease, as mental health issues like myself. And this is why I made the channel, is just to go over all the little things that I've done. And I'm not saying you have to do any of these things. What I'm trying to do is to give you a little hope that there are days where you actually will smile, and that's okay. You can laugh, you can sing, and you can dance, and it's okay. Us humans here on earth, we're here to live. And I'm just sort of coming up for air after a very long time. And, I'll get into that in another video, but I just want you to know you're not alone. And in the comments, you can tell me your story. And you'll have all these, hopefully, other people to hear your story, to see it. Because we all need to be seen. We all need to be heard. And that's okay. We've been conditioned to be our own little tiny island unto ourselves. But that's not what humans are. We're meant to be out there. Community. We're meant to be talking and sharing and figuring things out together. We are just fractals of all that is. But when we are no longer in these bodies, we go back out and we're all together as one. And that's our inherent soul need, is to have that community. And maybe we can build a community here. At least I hope so. And I know this isn't some great, brilliant anything, but I'd like to say that I hope it helps you. And that's my hope for today. And know that grief doesn't leave you. It's okay. But it does change. You get used to how it feels. And then, just like with anything, it starts to heal. And you can be okay with that. You don't need to feel guilty. The first time I sang, because I love to sing. I'm not very good at it, but I love to sing. And I like to dance. I was like, wow, I'm singing and I'm dancing. Something must be opening up a little. So, I'd like to say something very wise. I love you.